The next set of verses we are going to be looking at in our continuing study in the Gospel of Matthew is found in Matthew chapter 15, and we are going to be reading from verse 34 down to and through verse 39, the New Jerusalem Bible. Jesus said to them, "How many loaves have you?" They said, 7 and a few small fish. Then he instructed the crowd to sit down on the ground, and after giving thanks, he broke them and began handing them to the disciples, who gave them to the crowds. They ate as much as they wanted, and they collected what was left of the scraps, 7 basketfuls. Now 4,000 men had eaten, to say nothing of women or children. And when he had sent the crowds away, he got into the boat and went to the territory of Magadan. There are two equally extreme and wrong approaches to miracles. The first approach is the approach from naturalism. The starting point for this position is that we live in a world of cause and effect. If you add heat to water, you can make tea. In other words, if I look at a cup of steaming hot tea, I can look at that and discern from that the steps that were needed to get to that. And integral to that process was somewhere there had to be heat applied to water. And that heat was transferred to the water, and thus the water boiled and making possible my tea. If I have some 15 to 20,000 people eating in Galilee, eating loaves and fish, then I can look at that event and go, you know what, something happened to happen back here to make that possible. In the perspective of naturalism, we know the steps involved to it. Yes, somewhere somebody had to make those loaves, but on that day on the hills of Galilee, what happened, obviously, was that somebody got caught up in the mood and the moment. And as happens in crowds, other people got caught up in the mood and moment. And there was this spontaneous outpouring of altruism as one person shared their lunch, and another, and another, and another. And before you knew it, the combined resources fed some 15 to 20,000 people. Now, it's a great story, but not as great as the story of the feeding of the 4,000, not including women and children. On the other extreme are those well-meaning people in the church who see miracles as something to market. Yes, I use the word market or marketed. In this view, miracles are not only real and genuine, but they are reproducible. If you can retrace the steps, then you can also have a miracle. Notice where the focus goes. It becomes the technique. Learn the technique, and it is reproducible. You can do it again and again and again. You see, in this view, God is waiting and able to do the miracles. We just have to find the key steps, and then we can get God to do the miracles. But if you look at this view closely, you see this view borders on animism. Animism is the belief that the spirits out there can be controlled and manipulated by human processes. Maybe the right sacrifice, the right ritual, and you can get what you want. In that sense, this view of miracles also borders on the sense of the magical. You know, you have the right incantation, the right process, and you can produce the right result. Now, when that is said and done, just because people believe in something doesn't always mean that they're aware of what they're actually believing. There are unfortunately people who hold in the church to a view of miracles that borders on animism or magic. They may not see it as such because the terminology is Christian, but the underlying principles are not. If we are to understand the miracle of these two feedings, we need to see them as miracles. I know that's a little deep, Let me say it. We have to see these miracles as miracles. A miracle in this view is something that comes to pass because of the will of God. And the two above positions, known as how each in different ways negate the will of God, one by outright denying the reality of God, and the other's view by making human beings the arbiter, the decider of what will be, not God. It is we who decide if a miracle is to be. If you are to have a biblical view of miracles, it starts from the idea of the sovereignty of God. If God wills it, it will come to pass. If he does not will it, it does not happen. My role is simply to submit to what he wills. I'm also struck by how both feedings were, in many ways, common and ordinary. Jesus has grace and then proceeds to serve the food. There is nothing showy or pretentious. Jesus didn't go, hey, look at me, I'm going to say grace and then we can all eat. Yeah, look. No, he just says grace and then he serves a peasant's meal. It was not a Roman banquet. Miracles are miracles because we know that God, in a moment in time, has intervened. God has no need to show off. Look at those who were present that day. The ones who saw what happened were the ones who had faith. The ones who did not have faith, well, they probably said good grub and not much more. It is not whether God does miracles in our day and age. It is whether we have the faith to see the miracles that God does. And are we willing to submit our will to his?